Living Benefits Awareness Month 2025. Lee Duncan, are you ready?
I am ready. Let's go.
Do this. Here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome again to the Alliance Group podcast. It is a very special edition. It is Living Benefits Awareness Month 2025. Mr. Lee Duncan, and speaking of Lee Duncan, he is our special guest for this edition of the podcast, Alliance Group's president and CEO, and the father of Living Benefits Awareness Month, Mr. Lee Duncan. Welcome, buddy.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Glad to be here for sure.
So I mentioned this, the father of Living Benefits Awareness Month. We have now been doing this. This is going to be our 8th year in 2025 of Living Benefits Awareness Month. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But Lee, first, to kind of kick this podcast off, for anybody who might be watching this who somehow does not know what living benefits are, why don't you give your best elevator speech? You've been preparing for this for, 21 years or so?
21 years or so, yeah. So living benefits are a suite of riders that are added to a life insurance policy that allows the insured access to the death benefit when they need it the most if they were to be diagnosed with a terminal illness, a chronic illness, or a critical illness. All those illnesses generate a need for money, and that's what these riders allow the client to do.
So it's life insurance you don't have to die to use. Life insurance you can get money from while you're still alive if you get seriously sick or injured.
Absolutely.
All right. So we have been, I mentioned this, this is our 8th year.
8 is crazy.
I know, 8. We were just talking, before the podcast. It's crazy to think how far we've come as a company and how far the living benefits movement has come in the years since 2017, which is when we started planning our first Living Benefits Awareness Month in 2018. So our 8th year, we come up with a theme every year at Alliance Group. The marketing team kind of thinks about it and comes up with a new angle, a new theme, a new way of kind of getting the word out there about living benefits. And in the past, we've had some really fun campaigns, Lee. We've done, I think the first one I can remember was Ask Me About Living Benefits, and we made those.
You got some great shirts.
Yeah, some great T-shirts. I still see those T-shirts around everywhere I go when we go to our events and stuff. We've done Retire Your Death Insurance, which was a fun one. We had like the death character. We've done Go Fund Yourself, which is a very, very popular theme. That whole theme all about, don't rely on GoFundMe if something happens to you. Get a living benefits policy and go fund yourself. We had our adorable children, yours and mine included, in that video one year. And, of course, last year we had Shantae Lowe, our 4-time Olympian, who actually is a breast cancer survivor herself. She was an amazing spokesperson. She
was great.
And so this year we are the theme is Get the Most Out of Life, right, Lee? So what we're doing is we're kind of going back to the hard facts, the hard education about living benefits to everyday Americans. And
it's cool to be cute and fun, but then at times I think you got to step back and say, hey, this is what it's all about.
Right.
I think this campaign will do that.
Absolutely. And we're preparing a bunch of really, really great stuff for people to spread the word. I'll get into more of that in just a second. But Lee, first I want to get your thoughts on this stat that I actually found talking about all these living benefits awareness months that we've done. I found this stat from LIMRA, and it's kind of like a double-edged sword for me. So I'll read the stat to you, and then you give me your reaction to it. So currently, according to LIMRA, approximately 40 to 50% of life insurance policies in the U.S. include some form of living benefits riders, such as accelerated death benefits, critical illness, or long-term care riders. So 40 to 50%, which I would imagine is a large increase from when we first started doing this back in 2018. What are your thoughts on that stat when you hear it, kind of knee-jerk reaction to it?
I think about a couple things. One is it's not enough.
Absolutely.
First and foremost, it's not enough. It should be more. But I also, over the 21 years, I remember when that was single digits.
Right.
And it just was not as prevalent out there with the insurance companies. And it's taken a lot of education from advisors like Alliance Group agents to share the value in having living benefits in that sales process and that education process with the client. And it helps them get over that, no, I don't want to buy a death policy. Right. So sometimes that client will make that decision to buy the policy because of the living benefits.
Right. And we've actually seen that. I mean, just to take an example, there's some people who are naturally kind of superstitious about if I buy life insurance, I don't know.
Jinxing myself. Am I setting up my wife's next husband?
Exactly.
How many times have I heard that?
Things like that, and we've actually seen research that shows in entire demographics that the Hispanic population in general has this kind of superstitious almost, or historically had this superstitious almost approach to, if you buy life insurance, you're inviting bad things to happen and things like that. Those things are thankfully getting neutralized over the years as there's more education around these things. But the thing that jumps out to me, Lee, is that 40 to 50%, that's great, but it says right there in the stat that includes some form of living benefits. There are a lot of
It's not the full suite. It's not the full amount of living benefits that we like to talk about and sell.
Right.
There's more and more companies are having that terminal illness benefit.
Right.
They call themselves having living benefits, and that's the smallest form in my opinion.
Bare minimum.
Yes.
The bare minimum. I mean, so what is our standard for living benefits at Alliance Group? What do we champion, Lee, as a true quote-unquote living benefits policy?
I mean, at least having a terminal illness benefit, a chronic illness benefit that pays out in the event if you can't do 2 out of 6 activities a day living of not a permanent nature, right?
Right.
And then also a critical illness benefit that allows access to that death benefit if at least heart attack, stroke, cancer, end-stage renal failure, major organ transplant, Lou Gehrig's disease, those big major ones. And then some of the carriers have added on, 5 or 10 other triggers that kind of come along with it. The more options the client has, I think, the better.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just about asking your life insurance agent, do I have living benefits? Because they might say yes, and they might be referring to as just a terminal illness rider. It really is living benefits awareness, and Living Benefits Awareness Month is really about making sure people know you should demand certain things from your life insurance policy in the year 2025. And you need that terminal illness rider, chronic illness rider, and critical illness rider. In some cases at our carriers, we even have critical injury triggers that get added in as well. So it's not just about having living benefits, it's about having the right kind.
The right kind and the right amounts too. So then there's some of those companies, I'm sure that it's included in that 40, 50% that, their max limit is $25,000.
Right.
They even if you have a $10 million death benefit, your max on the critical illness is $25,000. So we like to look for and partner with carriers that have $1 million limits, $2 million limits in some instances, and then having the ability to actually take a client that maybe needs 2 or 3 or 5 million, and then combining it, taking different policies from different companies and giving them even more living benefits.
Yeah, exactly. And I know you and I both have several carriers. You like to combo our coverage and make sure, because I want to make sure personally, Lee, that if something happens to me, obviously I'm a breadwinner for my family. Dawn, my wife, works as well and earns an income, but I want to make 100% sure that if something happens to me, that my family is not just taken care of, but well taken care of. And that goes for the death benefit, of course, but it goes for the living benefits as well. You got to make sure that income is replaced, that you have all the money in your hands that you need to pursue whatever kind of treatment that I want to get, regardless of whether health insurance is going to cover it or not. I want the very best. I want that experimental treatment that might cost, we've seen stats over and over, hundreds of thousands.
$100,000, $200,000, $300,000, stem cell research, all those kind of things. I don't want anything to be off the table.
Right.
And I think that's the position that you and I are in whenever it comes. It's not necessarily that I'm worried about the short term or something like that from a bill standpoint, but I want to make sure that myself, my business, my family, we have the options on the table, and financial is not an issue.
Absolutely, and that doesn't just go for myself; it also goes for my wife and the rest of my family. Everybody's covered with living benefits, and that is definitely the way that we like it. So. Going back and kind of talking about the theme this year, get the most out of life. We said we're really going back to kind of this hard education, fact-based campaign around educating all Americans about what living benefits are, number one, how they work, and why owning them over traditional life insurance is truly what we call, and we refer to it all the time, we have throughout the years, it's a no-brainer, Lee. Why specifically do we say that living benefits is a no-brainer?
I mean, once you realize that all the different things that it can help protect you from, from a financial standpoint, all the different triggers, heart attack, stroke, cancer being the big ones, and then chronic illness, which I think is a silent killer in retirement these days, and I think we're going to talk about that in a second.
Will.
But the thing is it costs pretty much the same.
That's where the no-brainer comes in.
That's where the no-brainer comes in. And there's no additional cost to add the riders. It's the same price whether they're on there or not. And it gives the client the flexibility if one of these things were to happen.
Yeah, I was actually thinking in the car on my way to work today, and I was kind of thinking about this podcast, and I got down this kind of thought about, even if living benefits costs, let's say, double what a normal life insurance policy costs, I think Alliance Group would still be in business because we can still sell that. I can still sell that value to somebody. I know that I would be buying that value. The value that it brings to the table, from being only protected in case you pass away to being protected in case you pass away, or if you get cancer, or if you have a heart attack, or you get stroke, or you have a major organ transplant, or you have chronic illness, or you have a terminal illness, or you have paralyzed, or you have you're in a coma. That the value is so much more over here that I think that you actually could probably, people might be willing to pay double for something like that. But where the no-brainer part comes in, where you don't really, it's not a tough decision, is that you're getting all this extra value and you're getting it for the same price. And so that is literally why Living Benefits Awareness Month was born, is because we know at Alliance Group, and Lee, after 21 years of dealing with clients and helping agents market these products, if we can just get somebody to knowing that living benefits exists and understanding just the basics about how they work, they will come to that conclusion on their own. This is not a kind of weigh the benefits, tough decision. Once you know, it is an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, and it a lot of times that makes the decision easy for the client, especially if they have an older policy and we're showing them how they can upgrade it. For the to have the additional benefits. Like you said, it just becomes a no-brainer, and that's the reason why we have this awareness month, is to provide that education so that people understand that they have options.
Right. Exactly. And it's all just about getting that education. So in the interest of getting that education out there, we talked about our Get the Most Out of Life campaign that we're running this year. It's going to be great. The marketing team has put together a series of new videos and new shareable things that are going to be out there. We're going to be doing things like apples to apples comparisons of exactly what a living benefits versus a traditional policy looks like and when they will pay out. We're going to be highlighting testimonial stories from a lot of our real life clients who have received benefits from living benefits policies, and tell them in their own words how incredibly powerful that experience was. We're going to be educating on exactly what riders come with living benefits and exactly how they work, and of course hammering that point that we just hammered, that living benefits don't cost any more than a traditional policy.
You're spending the money on the insurance. Make sure that you're getting the most out of that dollar that you're spending.
Get the most out of life.
Out of life, right?
That's right. That's exactly where that kind of byline came from. It's get the most out of life, get the most out of life insurance, and get the most out of your, exactly as you said, get the most out of your premium. Get the most out of your money that you're spending every month. If you're going to be spending X amount on life insurance, why not make every dollar go farther and make it protect you in so many more ways?
I think it starts very much in a simple way. If you have somebody that's relying upon you, relying upon your income that you're bringing into the household, and you have debts, or in addition you have debts, you should have a life insurance policy. You should have that death benefit to not leave your family or your business burdened if something were to happen to you. Having the extra living benefits on top of it just gives you even more protection. And I would venture to say, I don't know if there's any stats out there about this, but you're much more likely to, in your income earning years, right? While you have a family, while you're raising a family, before you retire, right?
Right.
You're much more likely for something to happen to you, like a diagnosis, than to die.
Right. We've searched for that stat, and I've seen some that kind of dance around that, like you're 3 times as likely in your lifetime, or something along those lines, to suffer a critical illness before you die, right? Than to just pass away.
And medicine's gotten great, right? So like 20, 30 years ago, if you had a heart attack, you were going to die, right? So now it's not the case. Medicine's gotten so much better with it when it comes to heart disease, stroke, cancer. People are living longer.
Yeah. And the thing is, again, nobody thinks that a heart attack is going to happen to them. No one thinks that a cancer diagnosis is going to happen to them. But every single person watching this can right now name off the top of their heads 5, 10 people that they know who are close to them who this did happen to, who had a heart attack out of the blue, or who got a terrible cancer diagnosis because they went to the doctor and doctor said, something doesn't look right there, right? This stuff happens. And I can tell you one stat, Lee, I didn't look it up. 0% of all people who got diagnosed with cancer one day or suffered a heart attack saw that coming and knew that it was going to happen.
Nope.
0%.
Usually not prepared. Yeah.
So it really comes down to, and the trick about living benefits and the thing that can drive you kind of crazy as an agent, as somebody who's passionate about getting these living benefits out there, is that you have to do it before something happens. You have to be proactive. You have to have that foresight and that wisdom to be like, I know that I don't know that I'm going to have or I don't think I'm going to have a heart attack. I don't think I'm going to get diagnosed with cancer, but I'm putting this in place anyway because I know enough people that it's happened to that I know that it's important for me to have a plan if I'm the one that draws that short stick one day.
It's all about risk management. The risks are there, and how you choose to manage that risk, whether it's assuming those responsibilities, assuming that risk, and personally insuring it, or pressing and pushing that onto an insurance company. And the more you can do that, usually the better.
We've talked about that before. It's the transference of risk. Do you want that to be out there? I mean, my whole thing about planning and establishing financial security for myself and for my family is you try to eliminate any bogeys that could just wipe your family out, right? I mean, you have to watch out for those things that could happen that could just be like, the wave on the sandcastle, knock everything down. Yes, life insurance is one of those things, but with living benefits, we're really trying to get people to take that next step of saying not just death could ruin us financially. If I have a major heart attack or suffer a cancer diagnosis, you have to go through the exercise of putting yourself in that real situation and thinking it through. Like, what would happen if I were to suffer a major heart attack tomorrow, if I were to have a stroke, or if I were to be diagnosed with some kind of out of the blue chronic illness? What would happen? I'm missing work. I'm out of work for months, possibly.
Spouse may be out of work.
Absolutely.
Helping take care of and that kind of thing. And then the expenses just roll in.
Yep.
Right.
And, we do it all the time. We show people the whole, once your expenses go up and your income goes down, those lines cross. That's when debt begins to pile up, and that's where medical bankruptcy happens. So, living benefits, again, it all comes down to not just addressing the risk of passing away, but addressing all these other risks that can happen with your health. And you can do so in one policy by just making sure you have the new kind of life insurance that you don't have to die to use.
Absolutely.
So, Lee, I wanted to jump into some questions here for you. I've mentioned earlier that Living Benefits Awareness Month was your brainchild back in 2017. So heading into our 8th year of LBAM, which is crazy. How do you view just our progress in general as Alliance Group? We are the Living Benefits IMO. We are the leading champions of living benefits life insurance from any organization that I know. How do you view our progress just in general from 2017 to now going into 2025?
And you said that it was born with me, but it was a complete effort by the team and really coming up with this as an awareness program. But I mean, the success has been great. And if you look at the scoreboard reads that we're doing really well. We are educating more and more people. We're educating more and more advisors. 2017, we were at $30 million of production, and that represented about $5 billion of life insurance with living benefits.
And we were celebrating. It was huge.
No, it was great.
And that was huge. A huge increase from the year before.
Yeah, I still remember breaking $5 billion in a year. And so this year we will pass $75 million of life insurance premium with living benefits, and that will be roughly $12 billion of life insurance with living benefits.
My God. That's that is
so
significant.
two and a half times. So it's in a short 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is amazing. I mean, but you look at it, right? And we're in 2025. We're looking ahead. We're 75 million. That big $100 million number is out there. We've done so much, and it's awesome to look back and see how much, that production is a direct result of us getting more living benefits into more families and more businesses across the United States. You could say that we have done we have more than doubled and a half the amount of living benefits we're putting there. That's great, but we have so much more work to do. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the stats show, Lemmer shows, over 100 million people don't have a life insurance policy at all. They don't even have the old kind of stuff.
Right, exactly.
Right? Much less
Right.
the new stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's, like you said, plenty of work to be done.
Absolutely. So you're very passionate about living benefits, and I say this all the time. I do a lot of trainings with living benefits. I'm incredibly passionate about living benefits, and I really caught that from you and from Jerry Stratton. Where did your passion for living benefits originally come from?
I mean, it's seeing it firsthand. You know this. My mom was diagnosed with cancer when I was a senior in high school, and we ended up losing everything. Living benefits weren't around then. It would have been nice to have a policy, but they weren't around. But she wasn't insurance poor. She had a health insurance policy. She had a job. And really quickly, she lost that job. She got behind on bills. We, foreclosure on our house, medical bankruptcy, all that. And it took a toll on me. One of my goals coming out of high school was I wanted to cure cancer. And I went to Georgia Tech, and I wanted to be a chemical engineer to design that cure for cancer. And it didn't work out. I hated engineering. I hated calculus. I didn't like Georgia Tech. That's the reason I'm wearing Georgia. Go Dogs.
That's right. Go Dogs.
But in the end, it's funny how God works. That the full circle approach is I wanted to cure cancer, but now what my day-to-day job is educating people on ways that they can protect themselves if they do get that.
Right.
And 1 in 2 men, 1 in 3 women will be diagnosed with cancer during their lifetime.
Yep. It is a significant number, and that you've seen so many people be helped with this money, and they always describe it, Lee. I know that you've been at many of our living benefits testimonials. You've talked to a lot of these clients personally. You've
Delivered checks.
Yeah, you've delivered checks. What does money do in a situation like that when you're facing probably the most difficult time in your life? There's still a lot of uncertainty with what's going to happen. What does money really do in a situation like that?
Yeah, I think it comes down to relieving that financial stress, right? So the stress kills. I mean, you've heard that before. Stress kills.
100%.
And in a situation where your body's immune system is lower than normal, compromised, and you're piling on top of that financial stress and the worries of what's going to happen to my family, what's going to happen to my business, what's going to happen to my kids, that just snowballs. And I think what the money allows the individuals to do is just take a step back, take a deep breath. Financially, we're going to be okay. Now let's put all of our energy, our passion, our everything family-wise into beating this, whatever it is. Cancer, heart attack. We're gonna beat it.
And getting back on your feet, because that's the whole point, right? I mean, the point is to make this a chapter of your life that is behind you and resume living, right? And really what I've heard clients say over and over, just like you have, that living benefits money allowed me to breathe. We had one of our living benefits clients, Portia Lewis, she literally said that. She said not having money in a situation like that is like not having air. And with living benefits, I was able to breathe again and focus on what I needed to focus on.
Very, very powerful words from her in that situation. I still go back to the first check I delivered, and it was actually a physical check. We went to the guy's house. It was me and Ed Garcia. And I newly into the business. This was his first claim. It was my first claim experience, and we delivered that check. It was a middle income America guy, painter, construction worker, and he was diagnosed with lung cancer, and so we delivered him a check, and I still remember the first words out of his mouth was, "I've never been so excited to see somebody in my entire life."
Yeah,
and giving that to him, you're just seeing the look on his face and that kind of thing. It did take that stress away.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That was all the way back probably, 2009?
Maybe even earlier than that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. It really is huge. And again, Lee, we're talking a lot about the critical illness rider and the thing that rider covers. The cancer, the heart attack, the strokes. Yes, that is where most of the action is. Statistically speaking, you and I have tried to kind of ballpark this. 75, 80% of all living benefits claims are going to come under that critical illness rider because that's the big stuff that happens, the cancer, the heart attack, the stroke. But something you have always said, and you've been hammering it lately especially, is not to sleep on that chronic illness rider, because even we as a marketing team sometimes get kind of sucked down that trap of only focusing on the cancer, the heart attack, the stroke, the critical illness. The chronic illness rider is something that can be absolutely massive for people. Why is it that you think that this is so important for us to not forget to talk about the benefits of, so that people know?
I think with the aging baby boomer generation and their kids, Gen X, kind of coming into those later stages in life, right? So they've made it through. They're getting close to retirement. They're about to retire, and they're going to go do all these things, and then boom, they start getting sick. Mm-hmm. They develop this chronic illness. They hurt themselves or something along those lines, and
they might develop some cognitive issues as well.
And so more and more today, you have one of those spouses taking care of the other spouse, and they do it, one, because of love, but two, because they have to.
Yeah.
Right? Because if they have that individual going into a facility or having extra care, a nurse coming into the house, it costs a lot of money.
Oh my God! The latest stats I just looked up: $10,000 is the average. That's average. That's not top end. That's average. The average cost of care for a shared room in a skilled nursing facility is now close to $10,000, which has just been going like this the entire time that I've been here, the 12 years I've been here.
Yep. And it just keeps going up. And with inflation and with everything going on, cost of care is going up. And it's going to continue to go up, in my opinion, at a higher rate than the average CPI index and things like that, just because there's so many more people that are going to be in that situation with this baby boomer generation getting into their 60s, 70s, 80s.
The biggest generation ever, right? Yeah, it's pretty incredible. It's so for chronic illness, that's someone who's unable to do 2 of the 6 activities of daily living for a period of 90 days or more. So that could be something physical. It could be some sort of illness. It could be anything that leaves you unable to do 2 of the 6, including cognitive impairment. But so you think about old age, you think about things like Alzheimer's disease and things like that. You think about also just things that could happen. We actually just finished shooting a testimonial. We're going to have it ready for January of one of our living benefits clients, Joshua Garcia. Guy is in his 30s. He's an ex-college athlete, like living a total normal life. Luckily, his mom, Paula Schenefeld, actually bought some policies for him, put them in place for him as a gift. But all of a sudden, out of the blue, this guy starts developing these rashes and these sores all over his body. It turns out, and it happens very quickly, he has something called, let's see here, hidradenitis suppurativa.
Say that 3 times.
Right, exactly. It's called HS. It's an autoimmune disease, and what it basically does is creates these open sores all over his body that make it impossible for him to move, to sit comfortably, to lay down comfortably, and it basically makes him a prisoner in his own apartment. This is the kind of stuff that nobody sees coming.
You're not thinking about that.
Right.
Nobody can't plan for that.
He didn't even know what this disease was, a year before it started to affect him. These are the kind of things that, unfortunately, we have to watch out for. And that's really, that's another thing I like about the chronic illness rider is that HS, hidradenitis suppurativa, is not obviously a trigger for the critical illness rider. But it's under the chronic illness rider. It's anything that leaves you unable to do 2 of the 6. He couldn't care for himself for a period of 90 days or more. His mom actually was taking care of him. And on that 91st day, he was able to get money in his hands, which he used to get treatment. And now he's doing great. And so, just another example of living benefits being there for who knows what. We don't put it into place because we're looking at a specific risk. We're putting it into place because we don't know what's going to happen. And we want something that is going to protect us.
So you got the illnesses, but you got the injuries too. I would love to share his story, but he didn't want to do a testimonial video. But a guy, he was putting Christmas lights on his house, and he fell 2 stories, landed on his feet, and shattered knees, hips, back, like all kinds of stuff.
Oh my gosh!
So the life insurance with living benefits allowed him to have that money coming in the door to help with the expenses and also replace his lost income. And so at the same time, his wife was also under claim as well because of a progression of MS. And so it had gotten so bad that it actually made her so that she couldn't do 2 out of 6 activities.
So they're both chronic?
Both chronic at the same time.
Wow. Yep. Wow. That's incredible.
So it can be illness, it can be accident, it can be injury, obviously, as well.
I need you to put some pressure on that guy because I want his story on
Right.
video. Right?
I would love it too.
That's absolutely incredible. And again, for all these instances that we're talking about, all these stories that we've just told, none of them would have gotten a dime if they would have had a traditional policy in place.
Mm-hmm. And going back to your comment about chronic illness and how we need to talk about it a lot more, is that today people aren't buying long-term care anymore. They've seen it go up in price, and then they have this issue of I don't want to buy this policy and never use it, right?
It's use it or lose it.
Is a use it or lose it, right? So this allows you to have that protection, and if you never use it and you happen to live a very long, healthy life and die at 85, boom, at least your family gets that death benefit.
Yeah, it works just like a traditional life insurance policy would, which costs the same. It's just that you're covered in the meantime for all this other stuff that can happen. So we're very much looking forward to Living Benefits Awareness Month, and we're really excited about this campaign. For those of you who are watching, who are with Alliance Group as agents, we're going to have a ton of shareable material out there. We're going to have 6 new videos. We're going to have new campaigns websites. We're going to have all sorts of shareable stuff that you can use on social media to spread the word about living benefits in 2025 and make sure that everybody that you know is getting the most out of life and getting living benefits in place. Lee, thank you so much for being with us. Thanks for everything that you do, of course, to champion living benefits and for letting me catch the fever as far as living benefits passion. It's been an amazing career. We've done a lot of amazing stuff together, but we got a lot more work to do.
We got a lot more work to do.
Let's do it together.
Let's go. Boom.
Happy LBAM, everybody.
Listen to this interview and more on the Alliance Group podcast.